This is Module 1, Lesson 7. In this lesson, we'll be rounding multi-digit numbers to the thousands place using a vertical number line. Usually when we think of number lines, we think of a number line that goes from right to left across the page. But we can also draw a number line that runs vertically, that runs up and down. So this is a vertical number line where the numbers get larger as you go up and smaller as they go down. So let's start with a simple example of 20 and 10. And for using the vertical number line for rounding, we're going to always be looking for the midpoint. So halfway between 20 and 10, a midpoint would be 15. So the midpoint between 20 and 10 is 15. Let's try another one. Now we're going to go up to a different unit, and this time we're going to have 20 hundreds instead of 21s, 20 hundreds. And we know 20 hundreds is 2,000. And then here we're going to have 10 hundreds, which is 1,000. So the midpoint between 20 and 10 we saw before is 15. So 15 hundreds would be 1,500, would be the midpoint between 2,000 and 1,000. Okay, let's try another one. This time our top number is going to be 32,000. And here we're going to put 31,000. 32,000 is the same as 320 hundreds. So we have 310 hundreds. So halfway between 320 and 310 would be 315. So 315 hundreds. The midpoint would be 31,500. So we're going to use this finding midpoints as a way to round numbers using our vertical number line. So let's take another vertical number line, and the number that we want to round is going to be 4,100. So the first thing we do is, and we're going to round to the nearest thousand. So we see how many thousands are in this number now. We have 4,000. And if the next highest thousand would be 5,000. So now we're going to find the midpoint between 4,000 and 5,000. So this is the same as 40 hundreds. And this is the same as 50 hundreds. So halfway between 40 and 50 would be 4,500 hundreds. Which is 4,500. That's our midpoint. So now we want to look at the number we want to round, and we want to ask ourselves, is it between 4,000 and 4,500, or is it between 4,500 and 5,000? Well, in the hundreds place here we have a 1, and a 1 is less than 5. It's more than 0, but it's less than 5. So if we were going to put it on the number line, we'd put it about here. So now rounding to the nearest thousand, we'd ask ourselves, is it closer to this thousand or this thousand? And we can see on our number line, it's closer to the 4,000. So 4,100 rounded to the nearest thousand would be 4,000. Let's look also at the number 4,700 rounded to the nearest thousand. Now we see that 4,700 would be greater than our midpoint because it's 700s and this is 500s. So it's going to be here somewhere. So rounding to the nearest thousand, we ask ourselves, is it closer to 5,000 or closer to 6,000? And because it's above the halfway point, we know it's closest to 5,000. So 4,700 rounded to the nearest thousand would be 5,000. 4,100 would be rounded to 4,000. Let's try one more. Now we're going to go to a 5-digit number. And our number is 14,345. So again, we're going to start at the low end with the number of thousands here. We have 14,000. And one more thousand would be 15,000. And halfway between 14,000 and 15,000 would be 14,500. So looking at the number here, we have a 3 in the the hundreds place, and here we have a 5. So this number is going to go in here somewhere between 14,000 and 14,500. So if this is rounded to the nearest thousand, we see it's closer to 1,400 than to 1,500. So 14,345 rounded to the nearest thousand would be 14,000. Looking at another number, 14,990. We have 500s here, we have 900s here. We're almost to 1,000. So this number would be here somewhere, pretty close to 15,000. So this number rounded to the nearest thousand would be 15,000. Okay, so we put the thousands and the next higher thousand on the number line. We find the midpoint, and then we see where our number falls. If it's between the low thousand and the midpoint, or between the midpoint and the high thousand, and that tells us which thousand we're going to round to. Let's try some of these problems in a problem set. Okay, so for the first one, it says round to the nearest thousand. Use the number line model to model your thinking. So let's do the first one together. So for the first one, we have 6,700. So this number already has 6,000 in it. The next highest thousand would be 7,000. Halfway between 6,000 and 7,000 would be 6,500. So we have 500 here, 700 here. So this number, 6,700, is going to come here. So if we look how close it is to 7,000 versus how close it is to 6,000, it's above the halfway point, so it's closer to 7,000. Okay, pause the video and you try B by yourself. Okay, for B, the number has 9 thousands. The next highest thousands would be 10,000. The midpoint would be 9,500. So 9,340 would come about here. So we can see it's less than the midpoint, so that means we would round to 9,000. Okay, pause the video and try C. Okay, again, it already has 16,000. The next highest would be 17,000. The midpoint would be 16,500. 16,401 is going to be less than 16,500. So when we round to the nearest thousand, it's closer to 16,000 than to 17,000. Pause the video and try D. So for D, we have 39,000 as the existing number. One higher thousand would be 40,000. The midpoint would be 39,500. And this is 39,545, so it's just a little bit above the midpoint. But still being above the midpoint, it's closer to 40,000. Okay, pause the video and try E. So we have 399,000, and 1,000 more would be 400,000. And halfway in between the midpoint would be 99,500. And this is 99,499, so it's just one less. So it's close, but it's still below the midpoint, so that means we would round to 399,000. Okay, pause the video and try F. So at the low end, we have 840,000. One more thousand would be 841,000. Our midpoint would be 840,500. And this is barely above the 840,000, 840,7. So it's much closer to 840,000 than to 841,000. Okay, for number 2, it says a pilot wanted to know about how many kilometers he flew in his last 3 flights. From New York, NYC, New York City to London, he flew 5,572 kilometers. Then from London to Beijing, he flew 8,147 kilometers. And finally, he flew 10,996 kilometers from Beijing back to New York City. Round each number to the nearest thousand, and then find the sum of the rounded numbers to estimate how many kilometers a pilot flew. So let's do this together, and we'll put down the actual numbers he flew. These are all kilometers. Now, if you want to draw the vertical number line for each one of these, you can, or you can think about in your head whether it's closest to the lower or the highest thousand, because we're rounding to the nearest thousand. So here we have 5,000. The next higher would be 6,000. Halfway between 5,000 and 6,000 would be 5,500. This is a little larger than that, so we would round to 6,000. It's closer to 6,000. Here at the low end, we'd have 8,000, and then at the higher end, we'd have 9,000. This is 9,100. so it's less than the midpoint, so it would be closer to 8,000. This number at the low end would be 10,000. The next higher thousand would be 11,000. And since this is 10,900, it would be closer to 11,000. And if we add these estimates together, we'd get 25,000 kilometers. And remember, whenever we have a word problem and it asks us a question, we have to answer it also in a sentence. So the pilot flew about 25,000 kilometers. Okay, stop the video and you try 3 by yourself. Okay, Mrs. Smith's class is learning about healthy eating habits. The students learned that the average child should consume about 12,000 calories per week. Carrie consumed 12,748 calories. Tyler consumed 11,712 calories per week. Round to the nearest thousand to find who consumed closer to the recommended number of calories. Use pictures, numbers, or words. So let's round each of these numbers using a vertical number line. So the first number is 12,748. So at the low end of our number line, it would be 12,000. At the upper end, it would be 13,000. The midpoint would be 12,500. And this is 12,700, so this point would be about here. So if I round this number, I would round to 13,000 calories. That's for Carrie, if we round up. Then let's also do a vertical number line for Tyler. So Tyler consumed 11,702 calories. So at the low end, we have 11,000. At the high end, we have 12,000. The midpoint would be 11,500. So this would be a little above the midpoint. And so we would round to 12,000. So Carrie ate closer to 13,000 calories and Tyler ate closer to 12,000 calories. So we would say that Tyler consumed closer to the recommended calories. Okay, now pause the video and try number 4. Okay, for the 2013-2014 school year, the cost of tuition at Cornell was $43,000 when rounded to the nearest thousand. What's the greatest possible amount the tuition could be, and what's the least amount? Okay, so if we know that it rounds to 43,000 and we put it on the vertical number line, the next highest thousand would be 44,000. The midpoint would be 43,500. So in order for the actual amount to round to 43,000, it would have to fall in this range. If it was more than 43,500, it would round up to 44. So the greatest amount it could be would be right here, would be $43,999. I mean, $499. 43,000. 1 less than 500 would be 499. So more than that, it would round up to 44. The least it could be would be $43,001. Less than that, it would round down. So this would be the greatest, and this would be the least. And that concludes lesson 7.